Good evening, good evening, good evening. Aho, aho, aho. At the sin, at the sin, at the sin. Hotep, hotep, hotep. I'm your host, Nee Afio Momo. Welcome to All Roads Lead to Kush Mania. Man, I got so much to talk about. So many things have been going on. I'd like to first give a shout out to the family of the young brother, PNB Boy. Hopefully I'm not saying his name wrong, but I just want to give a shout out to his family. My heart goes out to y'all. My heart goes out to all his loved ones. My heart goes out to his other half, who was right there, his child's mother. To have to witness that, that was just it was horrible for everybody here in Los Angeles. It's not something that we brag about or we look to like with honor. That's a total dishonor. But at the same time, you have to know where you're going. You have to know your surroundings, and you have to be aware of who you are. You can't be so confident that you can go anywhere at any time, especially with all that type of jewelry on, and you go into another side of town that we don't even go over there unless we're invited. To go to certain places around here, you got to know where you at. You got to know who's who, and you just have to present yourself a certain way. If you present yourself in a certain manner, then things can really go sour. So I wish the young man would have made a better decision that day, but we all make bad decisions. And so I just, hopefully he was good with the Creator, and I just wish him the best. You know, you got to watch out for your children. Make sure you teach them your little brothers and even your buddies and stuff like that, man. Even though they might be on or something like that, man, you got to always be in their ear, even if you're the person that they may be thinking that they don't want to be around you, because every time they're around you, you always got something positive to say, because or you always warning them and making them look out for certain things like that. Eventually, they're gonna grow up and appreciate you. You understand? So, but tonight, I want to get into the importance of genealogy, the importance of knowing your ancestry and giving your ancestors the respect that they deserve for all of the things that they've been through, for all of the struggles that they've been through, for all of the multiple hundreds of thousands of years um, that they've been on this planet in order to bring us here. It will behoove us to know something about them, what they've done, um, to be able to bring us to the people that we are today and the person that you are today. So, within learning your ancestors, there's a lot that you learn about yourself, the things that all people want to know about themselves. All children, they want to know certain things about themselves. Um, we grew up in a society, and the things that we're going through in the world that everybody know, being ripped from certain continents, certain people on this continent being ripped, being torn, families just torn to shreds, children just snatched away. Children snatched away as soon as they come out of birth. We all know these stories. And so we're now caught in a system to where the government has still participated in breaking families away, um, playing the divide and conquer game, trying their best to hold a strangle over the people with all of these socialists, Republic, Democrat, Marxist, blob communists. Everybody wants to have a hold over the people and have their way be enforced over not only themselves and their people, but over the rest of the world. And within that, our families have been targeted and been separated. And you have a lot of young men and women that grew up in households where parents were separated, families were separated. You only know one side. Um, some of us know both sides. Some of us had to grow up older and then find out and figure out to go learn about their family themselves, and the rest just they don't even care no more. They so boggled down with pain and stuff that they've been through for the little amount of years that they've been on the earth that they don't care about anything that came before them. And I don't know any other people in the world that does that but us. And but it's perpetrated on us. So it's not something that uh, we did on our own. This is not something that was practiced in America before we had colonization. This is not something that was practiced in Africa before it was colonization. So these are the effects of colonization. So we're not going to play the victim game no more. We're going to raise up out of this. We're going to learn who we are, and we're going to get ourselves together. Tonight, I want to bring in my first guest, somebody who sparked a lot for me that changed my life within the last 7 years. I was always searching. I was always leading in everything I did. I was not always trying to be. I was always trying. If I was on any team, I was trying to be the hustler. If I was in any group, I was just. They knew I was the main one practicing. When we came the next day, I was always going to be ready, etc. So I'm always ready. I was always prepared. But when I heard the information that this brother gave on Sonetta TV, it blew me away. I mean, it was so short and simple and right to the point. Because through all of my studies, the main thing we always want to know is self. That's what we was always told, was to study self. And so within studying self, I want to know everything about myself. I want to know everything about my family because I love myself. I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of how they raised me. I'm proud of who they are and the people that I'm around, the women and the men in my family. I'm always been proud of them. I was always respected by them, but I always wanted to know a little bit more, and I always want to know why. When I seen this brother not talk about this religion or that religion or this prophet or that prophet or anything outside of himself, he was the only person I ever seen in my life that talked about himself, his family, and their lineage. Blew me away because out of all of the things I studied, thinking that I was studying myself, it was all outside of self. So when I heard this young brother, who was my elder, but we still young, demonstrate on his family lineage, I immediately went searching for mine. So at this point, I want to bring on my elder, my big homie, the spark of the whole indigenous movement in America. I'm gonna put it out there on front. The spark to aboriginalness as far as the public is concerned, because I know people have been doing their work. I'm not trying to knock nobody, but I'm talking about on this platform demonstration. We talking about YouTube, right? We talking about this atmosphere here. This is the one that brought it home for us, that made us go inside ourselves, look into our family, go deep and go ask our elders and our family, ask our grandmothers, ask our grandfathers, anybody that was alive. We was going to go ask them questions and figure out this thing that we have called life and where we came from. I know for a fact that the big spark from the middle came from this young brother, Norris Francis Brown, aka Mr. Reevy Rock, also known as the one and only Turtle Gang. I wish I had the crowd roaring right now that could come in, but I know all of y'all roaring anyway. So at this time, I want to bring in the good brother Turtle Gang. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna figure this out. I don't know if I gotta resend it to him or what I gotta do. But I see him right here. There it is. Just can from audio. Give me 1 second, everybody.
Okay, peace, brother. You can hear me?
He's here.
Yeah.
My very first guest, only person really I only wanted to start this off with
Thank you
because
for having me.
this is the journey that has been taking me um, all over the world so far. Turkey to Africa to back home to me giving a tribal life, me being able to appreciate not just my tribal family in America, but all the pieces of me. Um, um, I was thinking about this brother when I was in the sweat lodge. It was burning me up. I'm like, what am I in here doing? You know what I'm saying? What is this? All this because this is brother Turtle Gang. Me listening to this brother, and I just was so appreciative of all of the stuff that's been happening. My children, my family is all involved on both sides. So it's just like this is really a great thing, man. Welcome, Turtle Gang. Welcome, man.
Yo,
Thank you, brother.
Anishik, thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate your sentiment. I'm glad I could have played a part in, anybody's growth. You know what I'm saying? Whether I sparked it or not. I'm just glad to be a part of it. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Well,
you know what I
thank you,
mean?
man. Well,
Indeed.
when your boy Rich came up to you, man, and he was like, Turtle Gang, I got something I want to ask you, right?
Hmm.
What are we, Hebrews, Israelites, Moors? Man, what the F are we? Blah, 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 blah. Man, you
Hmm.
hit the spot up. And it was just like, it was continued digging into the family crates and trying to figure out this thing that we skipped over. With hip hop coming in for myself, um, the hip hop took over. I was 15. I was a basketball star. I moved to Rancho Cucamonga because my mom was a single parent. I was living with my father at the time. She was watching over my little brother and sister, but she worked in LA 45 minutes away, working two jobs. I had to go and help her out. Inside the apartment complex, my brother had this friend named Steven. Steven had an older brother named Mario that I used to kick it with. He was like 2 years older than me, and there was another brother 1 year older than him named Eaton. Eaton was from New York, and so they used to be like, "Peace, God," and always coming at me like, "Yo, what's up, God? What's the math for the day?" And I'm just like, "Man, what this fool's talking about?" You know what I'm saying? So certain things start going right there where the lessons started coming, and then me and one of my younger brothers, we ended up getting the 5% lessons. Oh man, it was on from there, and so
Yeah.
we went from. I mean, we just kept on climbing up till we got to here. But what was your start? Like, how did you begin doing what you're doing from giving the information that you've been giving out to us to have us go into our family? Like, were you raised like this? Did you ignore this? Were you always told this? Did it come from the outside like it did with me? And then you go and ask your family, like, what happened? Let us know.
All right. So the analogy I would say for my family's history and genealogy is like you open the refrigerator up, right? You're a child, you see pie, you see vegetables. What you gonna grab?
The
You know what
pie,
I'm saying? You're gonna grab the pie,
right?
right? So our history, our lineage, our contributions, it was the vegetables sitting in the refrigerator. You know what I mean? As kids, who we are, we gravitate to everything but, you know what I'm saying? And, when we talk about being kids, a lot of what makes us who we are is the development of a developed or fully developed frontal lobe. You know what I'm saying? Like this touch, this touch. When you start dealing with that, you're dealing with something that's we don't really think about, but you know what I mean. So as kids, what I'm trying to say is you just can't really. We don't know no better. You know what I mean. So that information was always there. We just didn't gravitate towards it. You know what I'm saying? So many times we were walking on conversations as kids. I had a large family. My grandmother had like 15 kids. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And she had brothers and sisters as well, and they had kids. You know what I mean? And just crazy, like crazy kids. And that's like we'll get into that, but so that's which is why genealogy is important. So this information was always around. I never knew a time where I didn't know Lenape, didn't know we weren't Lenape, that we were Lenape, or at least we had Lenape as a part of our lineage. You know, um, so but no, we didn't grow up. in traditional communities, the community we come from was like one generation away from their traditional culture. So
Wow.
like my mother's generation are kind of the ones, they were like um civil rights movement era,
Hmm.
and a lot of benefits came about as a result of civil rights. And at that time, you know what I mean, we were thoroughly entrenched in the black experience. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we Lenape people, but that black experience was all encompassing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's why I like to think of that as, you know, like black as an experience. You know what I'm saying? That's predicated on our appearance. You know what I mean? But so yeah, we weren't raised in the tradition, but we were like adjacent. Like I did grow up going to powwows. You know what I'm saying? Family was very vocal in who we were amongst ourselves. Conversations was always being had by the elders. Just wasn't as important to, you know, kids as, you know what I mean,
Right.
playing and balling. You know what I mean? I love basketball, all that stuff. So yeah, you know, we was just into being what kids are, but not knowing that a lot of the you know, for my family, like all this ties into like our location, the land we owned, stuff my ancestors went through, you know, in this like coming through the civil rights movement in terms of land being taken from us, intimidation tactics, and things like that. So a lot of the elders, when they talked about our history, they more so talked about it from the perspective of this company stole our land. You know what I mean? It was more of that conversation,
Hmm.
not the conversation of how the land was ours and our history and all that. So we knew we played a prominent part as kids, and we knew there was like a little bit of a like a I'm not gonna say a fear, but like a hush hush kind of when they would have these certain conversations. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So
Okay. So basically, you was raised in it. You
yeah, I
always.
mean we never thought of our like we thought of ourselves like just to be hunted like we all my life we just thought of ourselves as black Indians.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
So you knew. You
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah. Never like you know like my family grew up like it started to be weird to me when I started to be around like conscious people more or less. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like, because there would be conversations amongst people like, did you, yeah, you know, the Egyptians is black, you know, and like the struggle for people to, because I feel like a lot of times people be trying to convince you, but really they're trying to convince themselves. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
So
They
it's a
need you
lot
for
of,
confirmation. They need you for confirmation.
yeah. So I would hear these conversations where people are like talking about the Egyptians being black, and I'm like, yeah, and like, who's struggling with this? And I, you know, so I come from a family that you could say it was a small community, but it's a huge community. But it's small in terms of when you know, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And if you're close to the family, you knew. Like everybody knew who we was. All the people in the store, like all the old people in the community
Uh huh.
knew who my family was, knew who all the families were, knew who all
Right.
the Indian families were.
Okay. Can you All right. Can you kind of break it down for my audience to let them
Mhm.
know kind of who your family is, basically?
All right, so my family is the descendants of the Kitawa Cherokee that migrated from like the Georgia, North Carolina area. I believe they migrated up north in the 1700s, late 1700s. They got permission from Chief White Eyes to settle in Lenapehoking. Like this is how it's recorded. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah. That's
Um,
the basics.
yeah, that's the basics. They settled in Monmouth County, New Jersey. And Monmouth County, New Jersey was um to break down the layout of the land, right? Because like gotta go into it a little bit to kind of
Yeah.
understand what it is I'm talking about. So New Jersey is the territory that is now New Jersey was once the heart of Lenapehoking. Lenapehoking was all in New Jersey, northern Delaware, eastern Pennsylvania, and like the five boroughs, right? So that was considered Lenapehoking land in Lenape. That was the heart of Lenape territory. Jersey being the center, the Raritan Bay, which is also known as the Hudson Bay, um, which is also known as the Brooklyn Bay. It's all that one body of water that Staten Island sits in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a main hub. Geographically, that's one of the main hubs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Right.
all this is important. That's just a main hub. All the rivers lead to that. Like all the rivers, all the main rivers in Jersey, their trade routes all lead to that. A lot of the main trade routes that are coming from out west come through there, and right there from there, it's a ride right up the shore, up towards through New York, all the way up to Maine and shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So trade routes is important. So where my people live, my people are from Menacing Island originally. Menacing Island is like up by like the Morristown, New Jersey area,
Okay.
up in the mountains, close to Pennsylvania, probably about I don't know 70 miles outside of Manhattan, 70 to 100 miles outside of maybe. It's up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something called the Menacing Trail. The Menacing Trail leads from that area down to what we call the Navasink River. The Navasink River sits right in the heart of what we call the Raritan Bay or the Brooklyn Bay or the Hudson Bay,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the main rivers that leads out. So
Wow.
this trail is a land trail that leads from way up northwest to the shore, and that was a major trade route for the Lenape of New Jersey. That also kind of divided up the territory. Now, the northern part, North Jersey, was the territory that was occupied by the Muncie Lenape. From the Raritan Bay down, right, from that same area that I just described down was Unami territory. Now, the Unami are who we now call the Delaware,
Okay.
right? So they're the ones that went, signed treaties, and went to Oklahoma, right?
Right.
And then you have the Una Telatigo, who are the southern-based Lenape, but they're also of Muncie descent as well, right?
Okay.
So you're going to have families that are Muncie families being connected with Una Telatigo families, not so much Delaware families, although there was still an interaction, right? But these are
Right.
basically distinctly different people. Muncie had their own dialect of Lenape or Algonquin. The Wunami had their own, and the Unatalatigo was like the combination of the two, right? So my people lived in the territory that was almost the border of the two. So my like one of my elders, my ancestors, a grandmother, she actually spoke both dialects. You know what I'm saying? Um, so my people were the people that occupied the Raritan area. That was the Lenape half. They settled in Monmouth County. Monmouth County is where the Cherokee came when they migrated up.
Mm.
So my community is the product of the Lenape, the Raritan-based Lenape, who are
Mm-hmm.
Muncie Lenape, intermingling with the Cherokee when they
Kitawa.
settled here, the Kituwa, right? And they settled in Monmouth County and eventually became known as the Sandhill Band, Lenape, and Cherokee, right?
Right.
So the primary families are the Reeves, the Richardsons, like those are the primary families on record, right? When you look up
Right.
the paperwork and all that. But when you know the genealogy and you know a lot of the history, what's going on, all these families are intermarried with the Rocks, which
Right.
is my family. like my paternal family. My maternal family is the Reeves, but my paternal rocks grandmother, I mean my maternal grandmother's my maternal side are the Richardsons, who are the Cherokee,
Mm-hmm.
right? My paternal side are the Rocks, who are Lenape, but the Rocks come from Reeves.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, and then it's just a lot of intermarrying between two families, back and forth for generations and
Yeah.
generations, along with the territory of Monmouth County. And all this is relevant to me as to why I felt like our family had to kind of speak up. So the territory of Monmouth County, the first land deeded to any European in North America happened so in Monmouth County. This is before the William Penn Treaty. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm-hmm.
a
What
lot of
year?
this.
What year was that?
It was like 1654, something
Okay.
like that. It's really the like if you it's the records are in the Albany Albany is the state capital of New York.
Okay.
So these records are in the Albany state capital because at that time, like all this land was like what you would call the suburbs of New York. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
or New Amsterdam at the time. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So just imagine like where I'm at is like the hunting ground outside of the city.
Yep.
If you think in
I
terms
got.
of the
Got you.
location,
I got
you know
you.
what I'm saying? So we like this territory is connected to that in terms of records and all that. So these records sit there and basically, I'm not saying my direct ancestors are responsible, but my tribal ancestors, my kinfolks, are some of the first people to deed any land to Europeans. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The Revolutionary War, a lot of the actual war itself took place on my grandfather's property. You
Wow.
know what I mean? We were landowners. Long story. So there's a town in New Jersey. It's called Flemington,
Mm-hmm.
Flemington, New Jersey. Flemington, New Jersey sits in the Raritan Valley, right?
Uh-huh.
So Samuel Fleming was one of the first Europeans to settle in New Jersey. He owned what was called the Fleming Indian Plantation. So my like seventh time great grandfather, one of them was enslaved on that plantation. He married a woman who came from Barbados. They had a daughter. Their daughter fell in love with Samuel Fleming's Samuel Fleming's son. They had a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
That child, at some point, Samuel Fleming freed that child and sent him to Monmouth County to live with his Indian family. But he also gave him land and money.
Hmm.
So this is how my family started getting some of their land back. But when we say getting our land back, we just referencing the tribal lands that we had already
Had.
occupied. We didn't own them, but now it's the opportunity for us to actually, because now people got to understand there was a new, like we was operating under English law.
Mm-hmm.
So now in the English law, you own land and you got deeds and all these things,
Yeah.
right? So we had started acquiring some of the land, not really back, but we were resettling in a lot of territories that were our tribal territories anyway.
Right.
Um, but we were now doing so under the new classifications because that's how you could legally remain in the areas. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that's who my family is, and then we've been here ever since. We participated in the Underground Railroad, um, uh, helped free over 10,000 slaves, many of whom ended up settling in our communities. So at this point now, like by the time I was born, obviously, by the time my mom was born in those communities, probably for almost 100 years, people have been intermingling, and so that community was a product of of Lenape, of Cherokee, of runaway slaves who could have been African, could have been of other Indian tribes. You know what I'm saying? We also had Irish people. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So my community, and then on top of that, you got to understand that a lot of our Lenape ancestors were already intermingled with the Dutch. See what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So this is why a lot of this is why over time we begin to look us like what they would call African Americans, because we're
Right.
very unique people because we're a blend of so many,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't really take that into consideration. But for my particular people, even though we are a blend of multiple genetics and everything, the community we come from, the traditions we come from, what we identify as is Lenape and Cherokee people. You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying? But we also understand that we've been colonized. We've been, we know what happened to us.
Right.
We're not a group of people that like really believe we was Christians. We
Right.
knew why we was Christians for a very long time. You know what I mean? But
Right.
a lot of that got washed out generationally. You know what I'm saying? So,
Brother, you be trying to you taking over my show, answering everything all at once.
well,
No,
I
that's
see what you're
perfect.
saying. No,
No,
you got
no,
to slow me down. You know what I
feel
mean?
good.
Like, because
No,
there's
you
so
gave
much
the
to
history
talk about.
because you gave the history, and then you
Mhm.
went right into how your family actually occupies everything now. How they
Mhm.
basically got the diesel when they came back and started basically resurfacing the land that they were in, buying
Mhm.
land. You know what I'm saying? And just
Yeah.
going back to where they were at, the
And
traditional land.
now the thing about it that's important, right? When me and my cousins started to revisit all this was probably, I don't know, early 2000s, like early 2000s, like 9/11 type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think 9/11 changed a lot of things. Like a lot of people was babies then, but I think a lot 9/11 changed a lot of psychology. That, at least for me, it did in the world, and that kind of shifted me towards really like I think that was the shift for me to really start to understand who I really am. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of things prior to that was predicated on 5% philosophies, and you know what I mean, the devil, white man is the devil. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And then when I seen, like, oh, this nigga kill his own people.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just made me think about things a little differently. Like, man, I don't think it ain't even like it might not even be just about us no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's about something bigger because they killing their own goddamn people. You know what I
Right.
mean? So that kind of shifted things in me a little bit.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
it's kind of like different. I don't know. For me, because it seems like everybody you ask when you were like, I remember I would go to seminars out here in the '90s, and they would have this thing where they would say, they would ask the crowd, they say, how many people in the crowd know that they know exactly where your family come that's from Africa, and nobody would raise their hand, and then
Yeah.
they, how many people in here heard that they had a grandmother or something that was Indian or something? Like 99% of the people would raise their hand, right? And so for me, that was kind of odd at that time. It still wasn't clicking. But when it did click and I started really searching, I started seeing like it was the norm. You know, it was kind
Mhm.
of the norm already, really on the East Coast and down South. It was like everybody, I'm on the West Coast, so we're kind of uh, got an umbrella over us with the Aztec vibe and all that type of stuff,
Mhm.
where it kind of threw us out to the Washington kind of came in and started throwing up the Olmec kids and stuff like that, and then it
Mhm.
started to have a different look or a different perception of
Yeah.
certain things. And so I'm saying that to say, to grow up in New York, like for me to go on internet and then see like the Shinnecock powwow and how big that is. And it's like it seems to me like everybody in New York already knew this already, kind of like Wu Tang. And then you do your some research on Old Dirty Bastard, and you see his grandpa was like one of the chiefs. Like he wasn't
Yeah,
lying, saying all of that. He was for real.
yeah.
Like he was really for real.
That's why I tried to tell you, like when I gave you the analogy of you open the refrigerator and you got the vegetables in the pie. I'm
Right,
telling you, bro, like, yeah, like, yeah, it was there. You know what I mean? But also you got the vegetable, you got the pie, and then you got this big African American, this African dish that's
right.
decorated with all this pride and all this strength. And you
Yeah,
like, man, I want that. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Give me
Like,
gumbo. Yeah, like
yeah, I want that shit. You know what I mean?
bro.
So it was, I mean, yeah, like I don't I'm telling you, it was really like I know people be like they probably don't really get it, because a lot of people think like this is something that happened a long time ago. Like, nah, this shit just happened. Like your great grandmother knew exactly who the fuck she was.
Sure did.
Like, don't get it fucked up. They may not have talked about it, and but they knew exactly who they were, just like you know exactly who your grandmother is.
Right,
Outside of any type of family issues where or adoption or whatever, for the most part people know who their grandmother is, like
right.
without research. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of
Okay,
people know who their great grandmother is,
right. So
like
you have
actually, you know what I
a lot
mean?
of people don't even know who they are now, but our grandparents they knew. Um,
Yeah.
okay, the Poconokas. Um, I don't know if it's. I think it's them. They have an elder sister. I can't think of her name right now, and she wrote a book like in the. I think it was in the early 1900s,
Mm-hmm.
early 20th century, where she just broke down her Zervia Mitchell.
I don't know.
Is that
I
her
have to
name?
look it up. Let me
Yeah, I
see.
think her name is Zervia Mitchell, and she wrote a book breaking down breaking down her lineage from Massasoit, and it's like the book went so in depth with so many people. I had to put it down. I had to back up away from it for a minute. And I kept going back to it every other week. But she was name dropping so much. And even in the introduction, the gentleman that wrote the book for was asking like, where did you get all this information from? Just like
Mm-hmm.
naming everything, she just named everything all the way from the beginning up into herself. And then she was also, if I'm not mistaken, she was one of the ones in the 20s that was showing everybody like certain rituals and all that type of stuff on the East Coast, where she kind of like she was showing everybody. I remember I was watching a video where they were talking about the brothers and the sisters in Oklahoma, was talking about them because of the way they looked, that they wasn't the real and all of this. And then Chief Windsor Thunder, Billy Guy, he talked about the picture that he had showed them, and that his name was like, oh yeah, we know her. And he was like, well, that's my mom. You know what I'm saying? And over here,
Mm-hmm.
he started showing them that they were one family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that to say, it was this sister that was pushing the culture, like in the early 20th century, that had all the information. So while we thinking that people in our family don't know or don't have it, when you do a little bit of research, you're gonna see
Mm-hmm.
like uh it's like finding out they built a pyramid or something like that. You got so much
Mm-hmm.
information just in your
Yeah.
family. It's like finding out they built a pyramid or something when you find
Yeah.
out how much information go on in your family, how much stuff they
Absolutely.
done. It's like
Absolutely.
they're really pioneers. Some serious things that went down in our families. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you earlier. You said about you had some ancestors that was or a grandfather that was enslaved. Was this
Mm-hmm.
your Lenape grandfather?
Yeah, he would have been a Raritan. He would have been
Okay,
other Raritans. Yeah.
all right. And so, because you have a lot of people that say that their family never was slaves, you have people that say slavery never came over here and stuff.
Yeah.
Could you just touch on that a little bit for my audience?
All right. So,
'Cause I know it's late for
yeah.
you, but I'm not
No,
gonna
no,
hold
we good. We good. And I'm
you.
up all night. So let me see. Like when people, all right. So if somebody says to me, if somebody, you gotta understand like the conversations that's being had And for a lot of people, like, you know how when you Google something and you might Google a topic and it'll be 20 listings.
Mm-hmm.
You could tap on to any one. The ones at the top are probably the most popular. That don't mean they the most accurate.
Right.
They probably a WordPress, probably really somebody's opinion. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, before you even open your psyche to people who will, give them access to your mind, you know what I mean? You got to do some due diligence on them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got to, because everything, I like to think that everything that we know or don't know, it already exists in us. You know what I'm saying? And the reason you're looking for confirmation on things because you already know it to be true a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got this thing called intuition. When it's right, it strike you like, okay, yeah. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff that people lean on has to do with emotion. You know what I'm saying? So they'll be like, I don't see how. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they'll present concepts in a way to where they're setting it up to control how you even think. So tell me how like, you gotta listen to how people reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a book. I dropped the link on my page. It's a whole book that breaks down all these tactics and their natural, like, nobody got to teach you these things.
Mm.
These are like something that you pick up in, you know what I mean? Like,
in the barbershop, it's natural cap.
It's just like, motherfucker be like, man, I just refuse to believe that. Like, all these things are like, and they have specific breakdowns, right? So when somebody tell me, so you mean to tell me in a country of 100,000 people, 100 million people, you mean to tell me 500 people on a boat gonna come over here and they gonna have this and they gonna do that? Once they start doing all that shit, they don't know what the fuck they talking about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's keys on how people talk and how they deliver information and how they set things up, and you got to be able to look for those tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And once you know these tactics, you see them coming a mile away. So you know if somebody's being truthful or honest with you or not, or if somebody's just trying to set you up for some information that they're going to benefit from because they have your attention.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not really like anybody who think slavery didn't exist. It's real simple, right? It's people whose grandparents literally have grandparents who were enslaved.
Right.
And they went on record and documented this shit. And it's all over the fucking world. The same documents that these genealogy, because see, genealogy is working both ways, right? We use it like, it's like DNA. You know what I mean? The Europeans study his DNA because he want to know if he got any diseases in his shit. He want to know about his genetics.
Right.
He don't do his DNA to find out where he from. These niggas know where they from.
Right.
Right? Only the black man use DNA to try and find out where he from because we disconnected.
Right.
Right? So that's the same thing with genealogy. People want to use genealogy to prove something that, like, somebody want to say, okay, I believe I'm African, and they set out on their genealogical search to find the African. Right? Or they say I'm an Indian, and they use genealogy to find the Indian.
Right.
When really you're just supposed to be using genealogy for what it yields, for the results. Right. And not going into this looking for the Indian or the African. You looking for your ancestors.
Yes.
And before you even, like, once you really start getting into this genealogy, you start to realize, like, damn, I can't even have a real hard stance on nothing. Because I might be setting myself up. That's real. That's real genealogy. Right? So when I hear people talking about reparations and people should be getting something for slavery. I'm like, damn, I don't know if they know about how this genealogy shit works.
Right.
Because I don't know how you gonna give black people slaves and give black people money for being slaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about the black people that own slaves?
Right. That's why I don't mean to cut you off. I work in a barbershop where Tony Moore comes in there. He's a good friend of ours. The young Tony Moore. He came up with ADOS, right? And so when I heard about it, I was like, I hit him up. I DM'd him. I was like, yo, what's up with this right here? African American descendants of slavery. Like, how does that work? You know what I mean? Um, how do you prove you was an African descendant of slavery? One. Two, does African descendants of slavery, does that go for just the new Africans that came? You know what I mean? It's like, how do we prove this? Then I said, now, what about the people that was already here that's dark or melanated or you would consider black, right? That was already here, that got all of their stuff taken away from them, that got put in slavery. What is their benefit? How do they get reparations for all of the stuff that they got took? If you're
Mm-hmm.
giving a title to somebody else that's from another continent, like how does this work? I gave him just question after question after question. Lo and behold, next thing I know, American descendants of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But still, and yet, you will have to prove that too.
Yeah. And then
Might have been on the other side.
and that for me is if you're saying you're an American descendant, when was America founded? Because you're not talking about the indigenous nations, because none of them call themselves America.
American, right?
So when you say American, let's just keep it 100. What you're saying is U.S. citizen,
Yes.
right? And the issue right now, as we understand, is that it's not so much the United States, it's the politics of the United States. You know what I'm saying? When I
Right.
say that, I mean the United States, right? As I do know, our ancestors helped set that shit up. Politically, everything. You know what I'm saying? The rules, everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's a part, it's ours as well. It's the people's, right? We just ain't doing what we're supposed to be doing as the people. Like we got pushed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that when so I know that when people talk about US citizen, right? They not nowhere thinking about what genealogy traces you to. See what I'm saying? Because they just use genealogy to go back to a certain point,
Right.
1800s, just to prove I'm here so I can get some of this US money.
Yep.
See what I'm saying? That's
Yep.
what I mean by when I say people are using this genealogy just to prove whatever point they want to prove.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, even that you getting money because you helped build the United States, right? Which is turned into a plague on the people. So you want money for helping to create something that led to capitalism, which led to poverty, which led to all these things. You just want your cut. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it all just sound to me. Whereas what we talking about is we just want to help, like, and it's so real. It's so like, listen, okay, we want to help rebuild our nations, but we understand it's going to start with families. You know
Right.
what I mean? We understand this shit going to take generations. You know what I mean? But what's happening in the time where we're getting our families together if we not supporting the indigenous nations that can be making that fight now? You know what I mean? So it's a whole bunch of shit going on. Is you just trying to get a better seat on the slave ship, or is you trying to really get back to what's beneficial for your people? You know what I mean? For all
Right.
people. And a lot of these people, they just want better seats on the slave ship, bro. They not really concerned with, like, they want their YouTube checks. They don't want to farm, bro.
Right. Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm
Right.
saying?
So let
They
me
don't
kind
want
of break
to
down
farm.
what you're saying. So you're saying basically, and from what I'm drawing is, you're saying just take the ADOS thing for it. You said when they talk about American descendants of slavery, like you said, what is that? right? And then when did that start? Because them coming over here, let's say 1490, or coming up, hitting American shores of 1520 in Florida, and then going up north even later than that in the 1600s or whatnot. Um, that happened way before 1776.
Yeah.
That's really when America started, because before then, that was just this kingdom, that kingdom of Spain, kingdom of Dutch. We dealing with kings and a
Yeah.
king. That
Yep.
those
It was other nations
right,
here. It wasn't a whole brand new nation here,
right,
right? Like people don't understand. Like my like when I talk about deeds with people, families having deeds with, these are agreements with European nations.
right.
These colonizers was representing the European nations. They
Yes,
wasn't representing the United States.
no,
So there's treaties and stuff that exist that predate any treaties with the United States, that are treaties and agreements between individual nations and European nations,
yes,
the Dutch, the
yes,
English. You know what I'm
yes,
saying? So when you're starting to talk about the United States and wanting to get reparations for people, bro, it was people being abused long before the United States existed. So what are we doing? It's like, so how far down the block is we walking? We're gonna feed everybody on the block. How far down the block we walking? Are we walking all the way to the bottom? Because that's what we're gonna need to do. You
right.
want to walk halfway down the block and feed these people. You don't want to walk all the way down to the bottom. You know what's at the bottom?
Uh-huh.
The worst.
Okay, so let me break that down. So basically, what you're saying, in short, woo, which is a torpedo. You basically saying, yeah, that American thing is one thing, but even before that, the people was being enslaved by the Dutch, by the British, by the
Losing
Spanish.
land.
Like
Yeah.
you got a long list. It's not just them. Go
Get
and
in
get
line, nigga.
them, get everybody.
Yeah. That way it's authentic. It's like when I be out in Peter, I be in the city, Manhattan, and Peter will run down and they be like, yo, Peter, boom, boom, boom. Can you for the animals? And I'm like, why you just bang for the animals? You should be
Right,
just as diligent, diligent and out here the same way when anybody lose their life.
right,
You know what I'm saying? Because listen, like in the culture we really come from, and when you slow yourself down and you let yourself go, and you can feel that in your spirit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel for anybody. Like I used to have a problem killing ants. Like, I don't want to kill
yeah,
that ant. Now if they in my shit and they someplace they not supposed to be,
right. It's
I
different.
stomp them out.
Right,
Right? But I just don't want to like, bro. I can't. It's certain, like ain't nobody ever had to tell me you can't kill a grasshopper. Man, that thing big as hell. That thing should have a name. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Like I see the life in things. You feel me? So like anybody lose their life, anybody get displaced. Like yo, I had poor white people, and what's crazy, I had poor white people that lived across the street. In my neighborhood was all black. Poor white people lived across the street. It was dirty. Everybody made fun of them. And you know who went and made friends with them? Me.
right.
I get over there, start to talk to them, find out these motherfuckers is Indians, but they look white.
Right,
And then I'm
right,
like, yeah, I'm Lenape. Bong, bong, bong. Now, you know what I mean? Motherfuckers is like, why you fucking with them? They stink. And these white boys stunk, bro. They
right,
stunk. They whole like, I don't know where they was from. I don't know how they ended up in my hood, but they ended up in the it was like a house that had been abandoned for a long time. And they ended up moving in there. They left the neighborhood eventually, but yeah, niggas turned out to be Indians. Like they was white and Indian, but they
wow.
was Indian. Like
Mm-hmm.
still had the culture. You know what I'm saying? Just living in the hood. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so hold on. So back to what you were saying earlier about, because then you slipped something in. You said like basically, and sure, you were saying like what's American. You gave it like a two. You know what I'm saying? Like a two
yeah,
big parable. Basically, what's going on before, well, basically the other nations, and then at the same time, like what nation is America? Like what people are you giving this money to? You know,
yeah.
and there is no
Like
people here that was called American.
nah. See, for me, like uh,
The corporate
and
game.
yeah, all this can go any way, right? But I feel
Mhm.
like if you want to right the wrong, right, you got to address the nations that got wrong. Like United States, a nation gonna deal with a nation, not gonna deal with individuals. And if it deals with you as an individual, it still got the upper hand on you. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So it's like, okay, we gonna break you off some of our money, and you just still gonna be feeding into their shit.
Yeah.
We should be having our own nations and interacting with the United States as we please. And the way it's set up, you can like bounce back and forth and you can go do your US thing when you want to do your commerce. You know what I'm saying? And be your own people. You can do commerce with the United States as like anybody else do commerce with the United
Yeah.
States.
Yes.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? So
how
you
we
don't
met.
you don't you don't have to like when you really understand your nationhood, you don't have to, but I'm telling you, it's going to be too hard and too difficult. And this genealogy shit is breaking people down. They get discouraged, and now motherfuckers like, we got to create something for us who can only go back to the 1800s. We need a crew. We need the
Yeah,
1800s crew.
that's what they
That's
think.
we need an 1800s crew. If you was here and you can trace yourself back to the 1800s, you
Mhm.
Gucci with us, and we're gonna get you
Uh,
some
oh
reparations.
yeah, yeah.
Just,
If
just,
you can say
just
Negro,
follow
just
us.
say Negro on your birth certificate.
Yeah, if you can
And
find
you was
Negro,
on your grandmama in 1800s, then oh for sure
yeah,
you indigenous.
yeah. So, and for me, that's been the issue with everybody. Well, not everybody, but with a lot of people. I think so for me to act like I did all my research, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't have to, right? But there was an individual who was a family member that grew up in Virginia, didn't know his connections to the rocks at all. And he's decided to do a book on a certain branch of his family. So he's doing his genealogy on a separate branch of his family.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up stumbling into the rock side, starts finding out all the stuff about the rock side. He was like, "Oh no, this is what I need to be on." So he steers it back this way, and he comes and he does, and this is through paperwork and research. He don't know none of us, but he's a cousin,
Mm-hmm.
not no distant cousin. He's a cousin. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's so many of us. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
It's not
So
the
many.
one. It's not the one cousin that you filmed when you went to the gathering, is it?
Nah, nah, nah,
Okay.
nah,
All right.
nah. This brother died in the early 2000s,
Okay.
right?
Oh wow.
So he did the research. He's all right. That big genealogy book
Uh
that you
huh.
saw me with,
Right.
that's his work.
Okay.
That's his work. So everything that we knew about our family, he compiled it because he's coming from a perspective of he don't know the family.
Right.
So once he put all this information together, he's like, I got to go up there and see these people. So he came to one of our family reunions like 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and he came with the book. You know, it wasn't a full book. He still needed to talk to people. So he sat down with my cousin Donna, who is Silent Hawk's mother,
Uh huh.
right? She kind of schooled him on a lot, sat with her grandmother. I mean, her mother, who was Silent Hawk's grandmother, schooled him, like started filling in the blanks. You know what I mean? The stuff that you're not going to know just off the paperwork.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it also was an issue because it was like, hold up. He wanted everybody to buy a book. He was like, it's going to cost you like $27.
Mm-hmm.
You know, niggas was like, hold up, nigga. How you going to sell us our shit?
Yeah.
Not thinking, nah, this is like cost of to make the book. Like he
Right.
not trying to make money off you. He just, you know what I mean? But the younger ones, we was like, hold up, fuck that. This nigga ain't about to sell us all shit. We know who we are,
Yeah.
motherfucker. Like we gave you half the book, and it became like a little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody fucked with the book for years, bro. It was just like, fucking with that. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like had a little animosity towards the book. And like I say, a certain thing hitting me, boom, boom, boom. I grabbed that book. That shit used to be in almost everybody's like
Front
bathroom.
room.
Nah, in the bathroom.
Oh,
Motherfuckers
what?
keep reading in the bath. You know how they keep like something to read for you in the bathroom?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like that shit. And that's why I grabbed, because yo, when he dropped the book, I ain't buy the book. I was in the streets at that time. I wasn't even living in the hood like where my family was. I was in New Brunswick at this time. I'm out there running, doing my thing. You know what I mean? And so I ain't buy the book. I'm in my aunt's bathroom one day. You know what I mean? I'm doing my thing and shit.
Uh-huh.
Let me grab the book. I start going through it and I'm like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, I need to know. It was at my cousin Keithy's house, my
Uh-huh.
aunt's son. He had it. I took it from him. I'm like, yo, I need this cuz like I'm gonna bring it back to you. Ain't got that motherfucker back. It's been like
That's it.
20 years, bro, 30 years. You know what I'm saying? 20
Yeah.
years, like about 20 years, 10, 15
Mm-hmm.
years. But the point I'm trying to make is although we knew everything, like we knew a whole lot, this other brother spent years of his life gathering that information. And he had time to do it. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't no young person trying to raise his family and live a regular life. You know what I'm saying? He already lived his life. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
he was like older, probably retired. So he got little resources. He ain't afraid to spend that money here and there. So he was
Mm-hmm.
able to get all these things to put it together. You know what I mean? So I say that to say to people that get frustrated when they don't necessarily yield the results they want. This shit could take years for somebody who's
Yes.
dedicated to it and has resources dedicated to it, let alone somebody who's trying to raise their kids, work a 9 to 5, and then listening to some goofballs. You know what I'm saying? You'd be better off going and getting a real professional genealogist and tell them to give the results. You don't need them to translate the results. Like you don't need your genealogist to know why it's labeled Negro. That
Right.
don't matter. You supposed to know that. You know what I'm saying? You got the paper trails for all that. You just need them to give you your shit. See,
Right.
motherfuckers don't want to go to a professional because the professional gonna tell you African American.
Yep.
Then they gonna get all upset. No, I ain't,
Yep.
and start going through the shit with the fucking
With the,
genealogist who's gonna be like, I'm telling you what the paperwork say. Fuck
yeah.
all that. Let that person do the work, get your shit, and then translate it. You know what I mean? When I say translate it, I mean, okay, you're going to start to see all the different inconsistencies and things of that nature. You'll start to put
Right.
it together on your own. You don't need a genealogist to do that.
Right.
No, I mean, you just need them to give you what the paperwork say. And that's the problem with these YouTube genealogists. They want to half get you with the paperwork, but they want to hit you with the narrative. They want to place their own narrative. You don't know why. Like when they be like, "Oh, these motherfuckers raped your grandmother." You don't know. You don't know what. You don't know how
Yeah.
these two came together.
Right.
Like my people is a product of something that happened on the plantation, but it wasn't no rape.
Right.
These two young people fell in love. Stop. You know what I mean? So like everybody got their own little nuances to their family story. You know what I mean? So this takes us back to what you talked about earlier. Knowledge of self. Knowledge of self is literally that. Why was you born where you was born? You know what I'm saying? Like, what made your mother like? Because there's circumstances why your mother ended up with your father.
Right.
You don't want to know that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want to know these little things because all these things. I asked myself something when I was like 12, 13 years old. Why was I born here? Of all the places in the world, you know what I mean? Because I'm still
Mm-hmm.
thinking in terms of, I'm still on my spiritual shit. Like I'm
Right.
spirit that come through the flesh. I could have came to any flesh, anywhere on the planet. Why I come here through my mother's womb into this family? You know what I'm saying? Like what? Why? You know what I mean? And that's a question I asked when I was little. And I guess
Mm.
it's been a lifetime. I've been,
Got
creative been
that.
answering the question for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's an intricate question. You know what I mean? Like shit heavy. You know what I
Man.
mean?
Oh, Chief Langley, he told me one time from the UGs, he said, he has a story about three sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Says there was three sisters. One sister married an Indian, the other one married a white man, the other one married a black man. They had children. One of the children married the black kid married black people. The
Mm-hmm.
white kid went back and married white people. The
Mm-hmm.
Indian kid married Indian people.
Mm-hmm.
They go down. 10, 15 generations, though they all live in separate communities, their children done went this way, their children done went that way. When they all go back, they still got the same grandmama.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't be judging people by the way they look, right? By what you think or anything like that. You have to actually know the genealogy, know
Yeah.
yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Just appreciate who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
within that, is there like um when you go amongst your tribe, do you have a chief? Do you have like do you have your elders? Do you guys have a religion, so to speak? Do you have like a
Mm-hmm.
what is your system?
All right, so
Or can you explain your culture?
yeah, I'll explain it to you. So, all right, we come from a matriarchal culture, right? You
Got it.
understand? All right, so I'm gonna show you how, because now we didn't grow up traditional, right? But I'm gonna show you where these traditions come from. The traditions come from the people. People don't like you don't create tradition. Tradition creates itself within the dealings of the people. You feel me? Like
Hmm.
I'm explaining to you. So we come from like a matriarchal culture, right? Now we have to understand that, and this is important. You could stay here, lose your identity, lose your culture, or you could go out west, keep your identity, keep your culture, but you lose your connection to the land. You lose your land. We chose to stay here, right? So up until the 1940s, 50s, we still had active chiefs. Chief Ryers Crummell was our active chief. You know what I'm saying? So at this point in time, you have people leaving the community, going to settle like in what you would call like the city. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But it's like, so you would have the active community, right? Which was located in Reevy Town, right? Then you have people leaving Reevy Town, moving to places like Red Bank, Asbury, Long Branch, settling. Whole communities rising up there, but they're still all connected back to the traditional place, right?
Hmm.
But once you leave, it's like leaving grandma's house. You ain't having dinner at 6 o'clock like grandma had it. You
Right.
ain't doing all the traditional things that grandma did. You doing it, you a little loose now, you doing it your way. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the culture began to decay. By the 70s, the youth had kind of grown disinterested in the actual traditional aspects of the culture. But a lot of that is just like the show part. But all the other things that were in place in the culture still existed, meaning we were still matriarchal, meaning grandma still ran shit. You know what I'm saying? Meaning when we would have conversations concerning the land, the women would discuss it. That conversation was always between the women,
Right.
right? The men that would be present as a, like, because they men to
They gone.
demonstrate.
They
Yeah, like they got interest in this, but I don't know. My sisters handle all this. You know
right.
what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is the remnants of our culture, because we were still in it. When I say culture, I mean we were still farming lands. We were still doing the thing. So, like when they took away our culture, it was like, okay, so we can't have tribal gatherings, but we could have church. Boom, got you. So we jumped in the church. So you're asking, who is the chief? The chief is the leader of our community.
Hmm.
At these times now, we didn't call him chief.
Right.
We called him something else that was appropriate with the times.
Got it.
See what I'm saying? And I'm not saying it was the pastor of the church. I'm just
Right.
saying that. And even in your communities now, like you still got a clan mother in your community, in your family, you got a clan mother, right? Then when you look back to the communities you come from, you got a clan mother in that community. You just got to know what you're looking for because the culture was still enough of remnants of the culture was still there that we were still, see what I'm saying? Like the important parts of it are still there.
Right.
Now, I mean, even with the United States government, right? Like, why you think if you have a child that belongs to the woman, you know what I'm saying? Even though it
Right.
get the man's name, like, but real life, it belonged to the woman.
Yeah, I was
The
going to ask
man
you.
is just the corporate side.
Okay, so let's break that down right fast. All right, because I see the same thing is over in East Africa. It's like that's the whole culture
Mm-hmm.
too. It's patriarchal, even with Mayat and all of that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if the mother is not putting you on the throne, you basically not getting on the throne. If
Yeah.
she's appointing the leaders, the women council not appointing leaders, there are no leaders.
Yep.
Even in America, it was a point where I noticed that as I was doing my research, it's not all tribes, but it's like 97%, I would say, North American tribes where it's a matriarchal system to
Mm-hmm.
where if I was to marry a woman, um, it's like you couldn't marry in your tribe. A lot of times they didn't, like, you know what I'm saying, it's
Mm-hmm.
written that they didn't marry in their tribes, but they
No.
married somebody from another tribe but the same clan,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when you did marry um, the woman, it was like if you had children with her, the children belonged to her tribe.
Yeah.
They were named by her aunties, moms, and sisters and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Um,
Her oldest brother played more of a father role
Father,
to the
this is what I'm
child.
saying. Her brothers
Yep.
raised just son.
Yep.
You understand? Her brothers, because
Mm-hmm.
they were going to teach your son their
Their
tribe.
ways. Yeah.
And so um the next thing was the land. The land belonged to her. It was like you moved into her
Mm-hmm. Her house,
society.
her shit. Yeah.
You
Her
know what I'm
society.
saying? She made the
Yeah.
food. She made the clothes. It was like you didn't do anything but just go outside, make sure you can hunt, maybe drink, smoke, fuck around with your friends, basically, and then come back when it's time for
Mm-hmm.
you to eat and lay down.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take care of you. I mean, it's literally that. You don't have no authority over your children like that. She does, and her family, her mothers, and them like that. The same way it's done now. The same way the court chooses everything to go. But we are brought up to think in a patriarchal mind frame that that's wrong. When it's
Mm-hmm.
actually where you at, that's right.
Yeah.
So
And it's crazy because like we talk about, there's a big issue in our community where you have deadbeat dads. Like that is the exploitation of the culture.
yes,
See what I'm saying? Like, meaning on some levels, yeah, you supposed to be just like you said. Like when you look at the lions, right?
mm-hmm.
The male lions be away. They don't be
Yeah,
all up under there with the women in the cub. They be out on the outskirts. You know what I'm
yes,
saying? And then they come back when it's time to eat or whatever the case may be. They, like a lot of times they don't even do the hunting and shit. You
right,
know what I mean? So yeah, but psychologically, like you said, because we fall in a patriarchal construct, right? We're taught so many different things that we struggle with the culture we're living in because the culture we live in ain't our right and exact culture. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Can you imagine? Like I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh, the woman controls everything. Hell, she's supposed to be doing it. Go do your job.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
and yeah, you'd like
when you
it to
take all the
translate.
power, you will want her to do it. Like, no, go on, do that. Go on, do that. I was
See, now
thinking
that's the
about
thing.
what you think. You know what I mean? Just give her your ideas. You know what I mean?
See,
And stuff like that.
but see, that's the thing. That's the patriarchal shit still, because it ain't that she everything hers and she because like cousin like that's the respect of it because the patriarch will tell you possession is 9/10 of the law.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Motherfucker, you learn as a kid that if you bigger than somebody and you hold it up, they can't get it.
Right.
Right? You learning the real. That's the real. But being righteous and doing the right thing means give it to them. See what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Mm-hmm.
even though it's all they shit, and we know in the real world, the lying world, you know what I'm saying? That's
Mm-hmm.
why we there to protect.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the balance. And
Yep.
when you can maintain that balance, so it's like, yo, honestly, like I wouldn't label myself as like a sucker nigga. But bro, I got no problem giving my wife my check. If she handle everything and
Yeah.
she got all that cool, what? I just need what I need for the week to do
What are
my
you,
little
man?
dumb
That's
shit.
it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm good. Take that. If that's what make everything work great, you know what I mean? Because I know when I'm not in a situation like that, I gotta do it for myself. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But when you're talking about a family, but listen, this is the shit niggas in the hood be. They be like, nah, baby, get it in your name. Everything in your name. We already be on that
Right.
shit.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then they be trying to tell us, like, nah, nigga, because this
Oh.
part of that culture is in me. Y'all can't get rid of this. You know
Right.
what I mean? You could outlaw it, but it's still gonna be there. And that's what I'm trying to say about, like you asked if we had chiefs. When we still was active, yeah, we still had chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and like right now, there's somebody who's technically like, yeah, we got chiefs now. Like you
Right.
knew one of my chiefs just recently passed. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We got a new chief now. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's never stopped. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
now it's about the focus and the attention because a lot of people kept them flames lit for years through the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Right.
we waking back up, and now somebody else got to go grab that fire. Like I tell my cousin, we have a cousin who's a top historian in New Jersey. She was our sixth grade teacher, known this
Wow.
woman all our lives. We're cousins, meaning one of our grandfathers and one of her grandfathers were cousins, whatever. We tribal family, right?
Right.
But they're a branch of the Richardson line, and we're a branch of the Richardson line. We're not the same branch, but we all lead back to the same person.
Right.
Saying so, yeah, that's family. You know what I mean? But for years, she was like, nah, all the Richardsons ain't Indians. Some of them is Negroes. Da-da-da, da-da-da. The
Mm-hmm.
Reeves, too. You got two different Reeves and two different Richardsons. You know, putting all the shit in the because her particular line never, I'm not gonna say they didn't lose their tradition, but
Uh-huh.
they never lost their identity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they were celebrated in the community and are still celebrated in the community now as being Cherokee Lenape Indians. They
Right.
never lost their identity. A lot of the other families kind of just blended in and like got low, didn't make no issues. This particular group did, right? So even though this woman at times would deny other families of who they are, right? Because you're not on my family list. I don't see you in my begat line. Yeah, but you ain't the only. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
your
Descendant.
grandfather had a brother.
Right.
Look on his line. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That shit. But we're not gonna get into that. But so me and my cousin, we used to be a little frustrated with her. She'd be like, yo, we know this woman all her life. Yo, she know what it is. Like, why is she acting like that? You know what I mean? Okay, yeah, she get to be identified. This whole state recognize her. They call
Right.
her when it's time to break some bread. They need somebody to speak. They call her. Yeah, she probably don't want no competition. A whole bunch of shit going, you know what I mean, in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I had to turn to my cousin. I said, yo, bro, listen, we could be angry or upset with her, or we could just honor this woman. Because guess what? When we was fucking around in them streets, wasn't thinking about this shit, she kept that flame lit. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And we gotta honor that.
Right.
Like, we'll get everything else gonna work itself out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? She
Yep.
might just be measuring us right now. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? But yeah, now we're gonna honor what she did. You know what I mean? So, I be getting lost sometimes talking, bro.
Oh no, you just right on point
Mhm.
because I was just thinking about that because some of my family in North Carolina, my father's from North Carolina, Cherrysville, Gaston County, and his father his if I'm not mistaken, his great grandfather's wife, when she starts linking in and starts going into the blanks and start going into the Jacobs over in North Carolina, and it's like we once you start saying these specific names around there in Robeson County and stuff like that, most people know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have specific families that's over there where if your family wasn't taking part in certain things, that they don't consider you like Indian.
Mm-hmm.
It don't matter if you got the same grandfather
Yeah,
or
yeah.
one of
Same
your
shit.
grandparents was a chief. That don't matter. You moved away. Y'all went to the
Uh-huh.
big city. We've been here holding it down, and that's just what it is. And
Yep.
so I had talks with several tribes over there that was like that. I felt the southern, you know what I'm saying, uh, kind of somewhat prejudiced vibe because you can tell who you're talking to when you're talking to me, and I can tell who I'm talking to when I talk to you, but
Mm-hmm.
still related as family members. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I was just at that time trying to see how do I connect with my family when I come back over there to visit, or just connect with my family. Period. And then they were saying stuff like, "Oh well, you know, you got to be on the 1910 rolls or the 1900. If you're not on that, well, good riddance." And then it's like at the same time, you're not even. You guys are like state recognized, but you're not federal recognized or nothing like that. So it's not like you should be pushing the line. And then you had other
Mm-hmm.
tribes that wasn't state or federal. You know what I'm saying? And they have their issues as well. Which, um, when she told me that, I was like, well, I got to give your family props. You know what I'm saying? If the family stayed over there, they held stuff down. It don't mean I'm not related, but at the same time, I'll give you your space. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because I'm still who I am, regardless. My family, we still who we are, regardless. We just have to do our thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In truth, righteousness, and within the laws. But
Yep.
like you said, I was just like, I'm just gonna be good, do what I'm supposed to do, and then that's how that go. And then I end up getting a call from Chief Lavelle from the Skoroy Wakan at that time when I had put up my lineage up on the podcast that I was doing. He saw it and was like, call me up, like, what's up, cousin? And then I'm come to find out, me and his grandfather was like literally neighbors. Like on my grandfather's deed, at the end of the corner is his grandfather, Abraham Freeman. Right, that's another name out there, the Freemans. You know what I mean? It's like you say these specific names, and everybody know what you're talking about. But
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather and his grandfather are neighbors. So, anyway, I don't want to keep you up all night, Turtle
Yeah,
Gang.
no, that's cool. That's cool.
So, I appreciate you, man, coming on tonight. I appreciate everything that you did for the community, everything you said tonight. And I know it's not going to be my only time I'm bringing you on.
Yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
just want to thank you for coming out, man, this late at night on your time to come and build with me and being my first guest. So I
Thank you for
just
having me, bro. I
you
appreciate you.
thank you. More honest to you, honest to your family, to your son, to your wife, and everything that you got going on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate you. I miss you.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
All right, bro.
All right,
Peace
take
and
care.
blessings.
Peace and blessings.